it's okay. That's what I get paid the big bucks for, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Phil,
this-
before we go public, I've seen all your pictures of everybody jumping into the race already
What? Where?
on Facebook.
Where?
You
I
and
haven't
about
seen it.
10,000
haven't
other
s-
people that are.
I haven't seen
expected to jump
anything.
into the race.
I haven't seen anything about anything. I don't know what you're talking about, Steve.
Okay,
That's
you guys
right.
are actually on YouTube right now. I'm sorry, but the stream has already started, so I can't
Oh,
stop that.
geez.
So
Okay,
you are
no
you are
problem.
public there. So I'm going to start the webinar
But
here.
we're not on the record, so that's good.
No, you're not on the record yet, but you are being televised.
That's good. No. Well, thank you for taking a look, Steve, and I appreciate it and keeping me in your thoughts. We're gonna need them. We'll give another minute if anybody else needs to come in, and we do have a quorum barely, but we do have a quorum. Actually, not barely, right? There's 9 of us, so 5 would have been fine. We have 6.
I don't know if I should address this to Gavin or Jill, but a member of our staff, Sean Monk, should be a panelist, but he couldn't get in as a panelist. So could you promote him if you see him in the participants list? Jill says no.
He's right. His hand's raised.
Okay.
I can promote him to panelist, apparently.
You can?
I can, yeah.
Okay, well, great.
But I
Phil.
think Jill already did.
Okay,
think
here he
Jill.
is. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so it's 5:35. We have enough people here, I believe. We're all good in terms of a quorum. So let's get this show on the road. Let's open this meeting at 5:35. Sounds like a plan. And let's do roll, Susan, please. Susan, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. You'd think I'd get the hang of this. District 2?
Here.
Well, make sure you put District 1 on the record because you were.
Okay, District 1 is vacant. District 2 is Matthew, and he's here. District 3?
Present.
Thank you. District 4?
Yep.
Here. I don't see Lucio, so I'll mark District 5 as absent. District 6?
Here.
I'm here. Phil for mayoral.
Yes, present.
And I don't see Melanie, so,
Yes, Melanie said that she will not be attending today.
okay, thank you. And so we have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Susan. Okay, everybody have a chance to take a look at the agenda. See what's going on. If there's any changes, please let me know. My only change is on, and I don't know if this was an accident, Jill, or not, or if it was just trying to shorten the length of the title. But under the member reports, it'll just say chair, vice chair, and secretary nominations. So there's all 3. So just to make sure that we know what's going on there. Any other change? That was just a minor change, but any other changes? So now we need a motion to approve the minutes as they are right at this point.
Or to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Susan. Do we have a second?
As amended, correct?
As amended, yes, correct.
Well,
That was Susan.
the agenda.
First, and the second,
Second.
Stephen. Thank you very much. Anyone not opposed or anyone not in favor of the new agenda? Sounds good. Agenda passed, so we're going to move on to our approval of the minutes from I shouldn't say last month, from October. 27th. Any discussion on that? Anyone want to make any changes or note anything? Additions maybe? Speak now. First of all, Sophia, it's good to see you. I didn't expect you to be here, but good to see you. And Sean as well. There's 2 new faces.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, good.
Likewise.
The only change, Susan, is that on the approval of the minutes section, it says the October 2021 minutes were approved. It should be the September ones.
Oh, okay.
You can't approve the same minutes that you're approving
Over and
that.
I look at the same one over and over.
So I believe that's what? September 29th? No, 22nd. Should be the September 22nd. That's when we had our meeting. Yeah. I think that's when we had it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But pretty sure that's what we did. So that's all I caught. Anyone else? All right,
Motion to accept previous minutes with date correction.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Anyone else on our board would like to second that?
I'll second.
Any discussion about what we just did? Sounds like a plan. So all those not in favor of approving the agenda, speak now. Sounds good. Motion passes. Wonderful. So there's that one. Okay, so we forgot to go to our well, I think now we usually go to our unscheduled communications. It's not on the agenda, which we probably should have caught, but at this time we're going to be adding our unscheduled communications to the public for 3 minutes. I think there's going to be a couple of people who want to say something, if not a few more. I know there was one request for Joe Martinez, but I don't see Joe's name. So at this time, we'll ask the public to raise your hand. We'll get you in no particular order to have your 3 minutes to discuss anything that's not on the agenda.
Bill,
Yes.
you have unscheduled minutes unscheduled communications is on the agenda as number 8. And
Oh,
that, and
I'm thinking it's usually in the beginning.
right, that's when it was, and I didn't know if maybe you had talked about changing it.
I'm sorry. So do you guys want to, you guys okay doing it now then? I'm sorry. I should have probably looked at you guys are all right. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just move
you
it
can go
from the
ahead for
bottom
now.
to the top. My bad for not looking at this. I didn't even realize that in the bottom. So maybe in the future we'll just add it. Jill, isn't this the agenda from before the new software?
Yes. So
And
we did Granicus. We went to something else. I don't even remember what it was called. And now we're back to the
So is
original.
this unscheduled always going to be at the bottom?
I don't know. I'll have to check to see what these templates look like.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay. So we'll see if we can get it back up to the top, but let's just do it since I already said it and you guys are okay with it. So yeah, any attendees want to have their 3 minutes, raise your hand now, or we'll keep this party going. We got one, Tony, so I can do that. Or I guess, no, I'll let Gavin do it. Go ahead.
Hello.
There you go, Tony.
Let's see.
Go ahead.
I think I'm unmuted.
No, you're good.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi, this is Tony Molina, and I just wanted to share with the BPAC that the U.S. Green Building Council and the Fresno County Bicycle Coalition is sponsoring a Safe Routes to Parks webinar this Thursday, which is tomorrow at noontime. And it's if you're interested, it's a Facebook event. You can find out how to get the Zoom link on the USGBC Green Building Council of Central California Facebook page. And it's basically, we have invited Kiara Reed, who's the executive director of Walk Sacramento, to share with us about the program that they have in Sacramento, which is basically involved getting a grant from CalFresh dollars with the Sacramento County Public Health Department to develop safe routes to parks and healthy retail. So we're really excited and we've also invited members of the Measure P Parks Commission. And so it's going to be about how they have gone about developing their program. So anyway, I just wanted to invite members of the BPAC to join us for that. And we're also going to be sharing about the Woodward Park safe routes to Woodward Park efforts that we've been working on with Matthew and Laura and Sheila Hakimapur, and Steve Bradley's been involved with that too. So anyway, I just wanted to get my 3 minutes in there. So thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome, Tony. Anyone else from our audience would like to share anything or discuss? So at this time, we're going to go ahead and move on. I don't see any other hands. So, Nabil, he just got his hand in. Go ahead, Nabil.
Hello, thank you, Chairman Arpaio. I was curious, is the ATP position on the agenda? I don't think I see it.
Well, we spoke about it last time. I don't think that there's anything new about it. I don't know, but I'm sure Jill.
It's on the agenda.
It's
TP. The A got cut off.
TP, Nabil.
Okay, great, thank you. Then I will save my questions for that point. Thank you.
Sounds like a plan. Excellent. And I think that was it from the audience there, the public. So we'll continue on with our first presentation of the evening, the city of Fresno. We have Sophia here and we have Sean to discuss the VMT Mitigation Project. So we'll open the floor to you guys, and then we'll let the members in to ask their questions before we move on to our next one. So.
That's great. Thank you, Phil. It's nice to be here. It's been a while. I'm Sophia Pagalatis, Planning Manager with Long Range Planning in the city of Fresno. And Jill and I work together on lots of planning things. So it's great to be here. I, tonight, am with a team that's going to present to you a new program that is likely to invest in bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So we thought this would be something you'd be interested in, and that's why we're bringing it to you. With me tonight on the staff side is Sean Monk. He's one of our newest planners, new to us, but he has lots of bicycle and pedestrian planning experience, and we're really glad to have him on the team. And also I'm seeing if, I'm just looking at our list. Yeah, it looks like that's our only staff team. I want to wave to Matthew because he's also an intern with our department, and it's great to see him here with his BPAC hat on. So with me this evening, I want to introduce our consultants who are working with us on this vehicle miles traveled project. We'll try to demystify it and de-jargonize it for you. And I'm looking, do I see Tony, or let me look, there's Tony. Okay, we have Tony Petros here with us from LSA, who just waved at you. Tony is the principal of the firm and directs the firm's California offices. He has been involved with transportation planning for the last 3 decades and has been involved with vehicle miles traveled law since it was passed. So he's been very close to the implementation of this law, both in state conversations and then helping localities figure it out. Tony has helped us with developing our own vehicle miles traveled guidelines. We'll talk about those in a minute. Also with Tony is Ambrish Mukherjee, who works alongside Tony at LSA. He is a traffic modeler and gets into all the technical nitty gritty, and the two of them just make a great team. So that is who's with us tonight. And we are going to share a brief PowerPoint, and then we'd love to hear your questions. So with that, can we have Ambrish, can we give him permission to share his screen?
Thank you, Sophia. I will share my screen. Just give me one moment.
Okay.
I hope it works.
Me too. I'm glad it's you, not me.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Full screen mode.
Okay, sorry, I lost my buttons there for a moment. I want to talk just for a minute about vehicle miles traveled. I'm not sure how familiar this group is with that terminology, but let's go to the next slide. Tony, sorry, Ambrish, there we go. So you might have heard of Senate Bill 743. It's this infamous and famous Senate bill that was passed in 2013, and it changed environmental law for cities, and it made it so that when we're implementing the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, instead of measuring congestion, which is what we used to do when we talk about level of service, now under this new law, we measure total vehicle miles traveled. So now, instead of addressing congestion by potentially building new travel lanes, we need to actually reduce the number of vehicle miles traveled. So it's a total shift in state environmental law. And it was required to be implemented in cities on July 1st of 2020. So that was when the city of Fresno adopted its own guidelines, and it adopted a threshold. So I'm not going to get into the details of the threshold, but basically the city is shooting for a 13% reduction in vehicle miles traveled from today. The goal of this legislation is, multifaceted, as you see in the lower part of the slide. It's to, the purpose of reducing total vehicle miles traveled is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, encourage infill development and diverse development, promote multimodal transportation networks, and promote transportation safety. So, you want to go to the next slide? So a lot of what we do is subject to this law. Of course, first and foremost, are development projects, infill projects, but also transportation projects are subject to it. So if the city is building a new road, or Caltrans is, those projects are subject to this law, and even plans are subject to this law. Next slide. So in the process of developing Fresno's guidelines, luckily LSA helped us develop some tools that we can use to try and analyze vehicle miles traveled. And by the way, LSA also worked with Fresno Council of Governments at the regional level. So we're all in sync as far as our approach in the county. So what we have now is an interactive mapping tool that tells us which areas of Fresno have higher VMT than the threshold, which would be in red, by the way, which ones are near the threshold, which would be the yellow color, and then which areas would be below the threshold. And you can't see it very well in this map, but if we were to zoom in on Fresno, we'd see that the interior of Fresno is mostly green because that's where our development is most dense and there's a lot of housing and destinations within close proximity. So the vehicle miles traveled is lower. But as you move out, the vehicle miles traveled gets higher. People have to travel longer distances to get to their destination. Next slide. So another tool that we have is the Vmt Calculator tool, which does a simple calculation of how many vehicle miles traveled would be generated by a given project. So a subdivision or an office project. And then if the project is very large, over, I think it's 500 dwelling units or 350 employees, then we need to run the project through a traffic model, which is the Fresno COG activity-based model in order to get the vehicle miles traveled. Next slide. And this just shows how when a project is looked up on the map or run through the calculator, it shows we measure vehicle miles traveled on a per capita basis, and the results pop out and tell us how many vehicle miles traveled per capita we have. And I don't really want to get into the details there, so we can go to the next slide. So just an example, when projects come in now, if we have a subdivision project, like a 200 dwelling unit project in this location, we would run it through the Vmt Calculator and it would give us the results that you see here. And the red bar is showing that it is over the threshold. And so the lower bars show, I think the green bar is showing how it would look if it had some mitigation. And let's move on to the next slide because I'm going to talk a little bit more about mitigation. So currently the city has not adopted a mitigation program. And as you might imagine, you know, what we need to do to bring vehicle miles traveled down or mitigate is to drive less. So how do we facilitate that here as planners? Well, right now we've been kind of using a case-by-case basis for new projects that come in, but we are developing tools, and the purpose of this project that we're describing tonight is we are developing, LSA has been hired to help us develop a mitigation program. And we think that it's going to have two components to it. One is the first bullet here, site-specific improvements through the use of an urban design calculator that we've developed, which basically lets you run design features of your project through a calculator. And if you add certain features, your VMT will be reduced. For example, if you narrow the street, if you add more street trees, if you add more pedestrian access, if you improve the bicycle facilities. But that doesn't work for all projects. And so the other part of the program that we're developing, and this will probably take the bulk of our efforts, is a mitigation fee program where fees would be collected on new development that has excessive vehicle miles traveled, and those fees would be used to invest in capital projects that reduce trips. And mainly we're looking at the projects in the active transportation plan, we're looking at transit improvements, and possibly other improvements. So I think this is where I hand it over to Ambarish to describe a little bit further our program.
Thanks, Sophia, for the background. I think it's quite a lot to digest in 5 minutes, so my apologies for that. First of all, can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay, thank you. So like Sophia described, this is a completely new domain in the transportation world. I mean, we have been looking at congestion relief in terms of delay and, widening of streets for ages now. And suddenly it's a complete U-turn. And now suddenly we are looking at something which we are calling vehicle miles traveled. So what is vehicle miles traveled? It's basically the number of vehicles that is coming out of a project times the average trip length that those vehicles are traveling on the streets, right? So that product of the two is the total vehicle miles traveled that is being generated by a project. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to cut it down so that people don't actually travel that much. And that's the challenge. When we get to actually mitigations, what we are finding out is there are very few resources out there that we can tap into to come up with mitigation measures for vehicle miles traveled. One of the resource available right now is a manual called the California Air Pollution Control Officers Association Manual, or what we commonly call as the CAPQA manual. There are a few carved papers and publications out there as well, which is the California Air Resources Board, but that's it. And there is nothing else much to tap into to figure out what kind of mitigations can be applied to individual projects. The other big challenge for what is included in the CAPQA manual, it has a whole list of mitigation measures specifically to address greenhouse gas emissions. But greenhouse gas emission, the largest contribution to GHG is actually vehicle miles traveled. It's the VMT. So we can say that those measures could also be applied for VMT mitigations, the ones that are there in the CAPQA manual. But the way they have listed out those measures in those manuals, they are mostly based on studies done in heavily urbanized areas like the Bay Area or LA. And they are not locally sensitive. I mean, the local context is missing. Fresno has a completely different kind of traffic pattern than what you would see in the Bay Area or Southern California. So these are the challenges we are facing as we are embarking into this VMT mitigation program that we are working with the city. This is just a brief overview of what are the things we will be accomplishing. Obviously, the program is the main. We will be looking deeper into the urban design calculator so that site-specific improvements can be further refined. Whenever you create a fee program, you need to establish a nexus between the fee and the improvements, which is why there will be a nexus study prepared. We will be doing some outreach work along with city staff. This is the first one actually for us today. So that's what the stakeholder outreach program is for. And then finally, we will be presenting this to the city's elected officials, both planning commission and city council. So that's the overall context of this project. So getting into the mitigation program, I won't get into too much detail, but essentially what we're trying to do here is we will be shortlisting applicable mitigation measures. Those mitigation measures are going to come from the city's active transportation plan, FAX's long-range plan and near-term transit plan, and any other measure that is out there already, probably in the city's general plan. We will take all those measures, see which ones are applicable for this program, and kind of shortlist them, then quantify those measures, extract cost estimates, do a prioritization process to decide which measures gives us the biggest bang for the buck, and then finally, prepare a report so that everybody can use the program. Some of the example measures, again, these are just examples we are exploring. We are very early in the process. We will be identifying more, but just to give you some perspective, it could be trails, it could be bus stops, transit lines, shadows, or even class 1 bike lanes. And these are programs that tend to typically lower VMT, which is why we will be identifying these as potential mitigation measures. Site-specific improvements, like Sophia mentioned, the city already has the urban design calculator. We will be further reviewing this calculator to see what else could be added and make it more specific and applicable to the Fresno region. so that it is more relevant. And then, like I mentioned, whenever you have a fee program, you have to also prepare a next study so that establishes the nexus between the mitigations and the fees that projects would have to pay if they are exceeding their VMT thresholds. As part of the development of the fees, like I said, the cost estimates are required to be developed. Those will be coming from the city's capital improvement program, the active transportation plan, and FACTS's ADA bus stop and their long range transportation plan. One interesting thing we will be exploring is just not identifying these mitigation measures and coming up with cost estimates and quantifying them, also trying to establish the location, because sometimes location can give you a much better effect of a measure being implemented. For example, if we, like, Sophia was mentioning about the screening tool, this is the zoomed in map of that tool on your right side that you're seeing. That is showing the green areas, which are essentially below the threshold. So which means that the vehicle mile travel threshold in those areas are lower than the region. And then you see the fringes, right, where you have all these red zones. So if we implement, so let's say a project goes into one of those red zones, what will that mean? That project will exceed the VMT threshold. And that's when it will come back and will be required to pay a fee program, pay into the fee program. Now, as a project though, I mean, project means a project that's in the fee program, where does it create the biggest impact in terms of reduction in VMT? It may not be the actual suburbs of the city. It might be actually the downtown core or the central core, where you have a lot of users who will tend to use that particular improvement, right? So that will be the purpose of this exercise. Basically, after we have identified everything, trying to prioritize the improvements. And that's where I think we will have quite a bit of, we'll need quite a bit of input from our outreach folks. I mean, including you all from the BPAC. You can tell us that, oh, we have noticed areas in this part of town where there are a lot of bicyclists, but the trails are not adequate. There are not even class 2 bike lanes, but people are willing to bike. So we can say, oh, okay, that makes sense. Then that could be one project that we need to consider and maybe prioritize. So that's just an example that I wanted to share. And finally, like I said, the Nexus study to meet all the requirements that you have to meet to establish a fee program that will be developed. And we have already started the outreach process. And we'll be continuing that throughout the term of the project. So basically our next steps, we already are hosting a bi-weekly technical advisory committee meeting with city and FACT staff. This is our first stakeholder meeting. I mean, it's actually broken down into 2 parts. Today is the first, tomorrow is another part of the stakeholder meeting. But then we will have a second stakeholder meeting more towards the end of the project, where we have our findings, and we want to share it with everyone to see what feedback we receive and whether anybody has any questions on the findings. Plus, we will be also presenting this to the Planning Commission and City Council for final approval. Here is our project schedule, just to give you some context. We started last week of October. Here we are in first week of December. Our second stakeholder meeting, if you see kind of in blue, I don't know if you can see my mouse, we are planning it for around early May. That's when we think that we should be almost towards the end of this project, where we will have the results available to discuss with everyone. So that's kind of the schedule. Just to let you all know, there are other similar programs being developed elsewhere in the state. The 2 that are pretty much on way to establishing their VMT mitigation program One is in up north Contra Costa County. They're working on it already, and City of San Diego is the other one who has developed their active transportation in lieu fee nexus study. That's what they're calling it in San Diego. With that, I will open this up for questions.
Oh, thank you, Ambarish, and to Sophia for the presentation there. I know we're going to have some members here that have some questions here, so let me get everybody here where I can see them. And we'll go from there. So from my left to right, I see Stephen first. So let's give the floor to Stephen and we'll go from there.
Okay, just to kind of clarify my understanding, the vehicle miles traveled basically is you're trying to make sure that you have all the available amenities someone needs when they live in certain spots. They don't have to travel so far for shopping, so far for entertainment, so far for different types of things. Is that kind of how the vehicle miles traveled works essentially?
I could take a shot at that, but welcome, Ambarish and Tony. Yes, it's basically the whole idea behind the state law is to reduce commute trips specifically. So vehicle miles traveled is either measured for residential projects on a per capita, vehicle miles traveled per capita for residential, and per employee for commercial. And it is looking at the average, miles traveled. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but.
Sophia, maybe if I could add in, thank
Please.
you and Paul to be here, and Stephen, that's a great question. As Ambarish alluded to, VMT is simply the product of two variables. One, the total number of trips that might come off a site, and the distance they travel. So if we can affect either one of those variables by incenting people to change their travel behavior, then we will reduce vehicle miles traveled. We could reduce the number of trips by virtue of offering transit pass, more robust bike circulation, create attraction. Or we could say, you know what, we want to site uses closer together so that it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pull your keys out. Instead, go for a walk or, ride your bicycle to go fulfill whatever that trip purpose is. So those are the kind of strategies we want to look at.
Thank you.
Perfect. Next, Stephen. Matthew was next. Go ahead, Matthew.
Okay. So I heard it mentioned by Sophia in the beginning, but what's the city's threshold for VMT? And also for comparison, what is the state's threshold? Because that's one thing I've heard is that state has their threshold, we have ours.
That's a good question. So statewide, the VMT threshold is 15%. So the state is shooting for a 15% reduction in vehicle miles traveled. However, in the city of Fresno, we looked hard at this issue, and regionally, the state had already approved a 13% reduction in greenhouse gases and VMT. So we decided to build our threshold to that number. And happy to hear any additional input from Tony or Ambarish.
Yeah, I would just want to add there. So Matthew, great question again. Thank you. The 15% that the state is recommending is basically an average of all state. Now, if you parse that out into individual counties or MPOs, you will notice that each county or MPO is either below or above that 15, which averages out to 15. For Fresno, that is 13. For some other counties, it may be 19 or as high as 20%. Okay, so that's why with that evidence, we are saying, okay, Fresno doesn't need 15%. It needs the 13%, and other counties need to meet whatever is being suggested by the state to lower VMT by that much amount. So that was the basis on which Fresno decided to go with 13%.
That answer your question, Matthew?
Yeah, roughly, yeah. Okay.
Sounds good. Laura,
Question.
your turn. I'll get to you after.
Good question, Matthew. I had that on my list as well. And I'm a little disappointed that the city of Fresno is so unambitious to lower the threshold and then, given out for the developers to pay for that as well. I mean, if we really would be wanting to invest in our active transportation infrastructure and give somebody the opportunity to buy themselves out of the opportunity to think about how to reduce vehicle miles traveled with their project, we could have at least left the 15% so that we would have more money to invest in these alternatives that are certainly needed to, on the long term, reduce vehicle miles traveled. So why would that not be on the table? And I also remember, it probably was more than a year ago that I've heard from Sophia for the first time about vehicle miles traveled in a meeting with developers that certainly expressed a lot of opposition towards this. So I'm wondering, as you're doing stakeholder outreach, how long was the stakeholder outreach to the business industry beforehand, and how they were involved in the decision-making process in coming up with the numbers and then with the fee system as well?
Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I want to make sure that we're clear on this 15 and 13. The difference between the two is de minimis when you look at the contribution of VMT to the region. I would venture a guess that the selection of projects that wouldn't be captured at 13%, but would at 15 is negligible. However, your air quality management district and the state's air quality management district approved a plan, your regional transportation plan, for a 13% reduction. So all of the decision makers at the state level made that decision before this was already adopted and conceived. Having said that, the outreach on this, not just to business, but to the entire population of California, started in 2013 and went on for 6 years, at which point there were numerous town halls, webinars, hosted sessions throughout the state of California, up and down. At the point that the city of Fresno became involved, I believe that was 2019.
Early 2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
There were a number of meetings that were held by the city. At the very same time, the county was doing their thresholds, and there were a number of meetings held at the county. So there were two paths that both the general public, the development community, the environmental groups, the air quality specialists could all come together and voice their opinions about the trajectory of this overall legislation.
Just to clarify, I mean, well, Tony, what you mean by the county is actually the COG, right? The Fresno COG, which represents all the 16 member jurisdictions.
That's correct. Thank you, Amber,
Yeah.
for the clarification. Thank
Appreciate it. We have one more, and we're going to have, Susan. We have Susan, we have Nabil, and then I think we'll have time to just wrap it up. We still got another presentation I want to get to. I know he's been waiting, and we still got a lot on our plate. So let's go with Susan first, because you had a question, right, Susan?
Well, I did. I just wanted to ask how specific spots in the city would be identified, like on Blackstone, between Dakota and McKinley, I see more and more bicycles every day riding down Blackstone. And there's absolutely no biking facilities at all on the streets. So, I mean, I would see that area as something that needs to be addressed fairly quickly. And is this something that would capture, that area?
So if I may take that question, Susan, again, another great question. That's why we are coming to you as our first outreach group. We want to know from you where you see things are lacking within the city. But before I answer that, so let me break this answer into two parts. The first part, so right now the fee program we are creating is going to take into consideration what is there currently in the city's active transportation plan for the future. So if this particular example that you cited, Susan, is not in the active transportation plan, then it probably will be missed out. But this is the first part of the fee program, right? The fee program is just being established. Whenever such fee programs are established, from a time-to-time basis, they get updated, like every 4 years or every 2 years or every 5 years, depending on how frequently the city would want to do it. Now, in every cycle that it gets updated, what needs to be done is more focus needs to be put in on the active transportation plan, so that the next time the active transportation plan is being updated, you all make sure that all these concerned projects are included in the ATP. Once that's included in the ATP, that will get folded into the next round of update to the fee program. So that is going to be the cycle, let's say I don't know, Sophia, you can say how frequently the ATP is updated, but I think it will be the same frequency, right?
Yes, I think it's every 5 years, and I know Jill can talk about that.
Yes, it's every 5 years. And I'm gonna apologize, I have to jump off, but Scott's team is sticking around to answer any questions or help out if needed. So see you guys.
Thanks, Jill.
Did you?
Susan, was that enough? Was that good? Okay, awesome. Again, real quick, we got 2 more left, and then we'll go. And it looks like Sophia put some stuff in the chat if you want to be connected with them, because obviously they're here to hear our input, and that way you can be added to that as well. So Nabil, we'll give you a couple minutes or to fill in there. Go ahead. Nabil or Gavin, can we get Nabil? Oh, there you go. Oh no, I don't. There you
go. Now I got the pop-up that said unmute.
All right, good.
I just had a quick question because I missed the one slide when they were talking about schedule. This VMT, when will it appear on a city council or planning commission agenda, if at all? Do you know when it would come across?
My best guess would be, and right now the schedule says around summer.
Yeah.
That's a guess. Sometimes things take longer than we expect, or we do more outreach, but that's the plan right now. And yes, the plan would need to be approved by council, so it will eventually land there.
Right, but not sooner, just summer or later?
Yeah, not sooner than summer, I wouldn't think.
All right.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nabil. And real quick, Tony. Go ahead. I think you're
great. Yes, very exciting opportunity to have our new ATP update, which we're hoping to be online hopefully in the next year or so. This is good timing for that. And I would just say this is an excellent opportunity to address the gaps in our ATP high priority network. That would be a kind of a big boon to actually getting people to use that and thereby mitigate VMT. So my question is, will there be opportunities in the plan for non-infrastructure types of mitigation strategies?
Actually, yes.
Well,
Great.
let's clarify. What are you trying to get to?
I'm thinking of incentive programs, e-bike subsidies, encouragement programs, love to ride type of things that have been implemented by other communities to increase incentives for people to bike, as an example of a non-infrastructure type of program. So I don't know if you've if the plan would be open to consideration of those types of non-infrastructure projects.
We can certainly consider, those types of things, but I will caution this. This is a one-time payment you'll be receiving from, the project proponents. And generally, when you have one-time payments, you use them for a one-time event. And that's why primarily capital projects are considered. You usually don't use those one-time payments for ongoing service or repetitive costs, because you can't guarantee that you'll always have the endowed amount present for those services. Now, if they are low cost incentivizing practices, the city, we will certainly include them, and then it'll be up to the city to say whether or not those are burdens that they think that can be taken forward over time. But we just want to make sure that we're prudent with city resources when we make suggestions about those things.
Yeah, thanks, Tony, for the clarification. But I just want to add that there could be other measures beyond the ATP or FACSIS plan.
Sure.
I mean, there could be measures like broadband infrastructure improvement, ITS improvements, TDM measures. So it will be not restricted or limited just to the ATP or the FACS transit plan. That's what I said, that it is, what I meant by other improvements.
Thank you, Ambarish, and thank you to everyone for coming and sharing this presentation with us. We really appreciate it being the first you said set of stakeholders to come to. So that means a lot to us, and we hope some of our members here will be able to take advantage of their expertise and let us know where it'll best be used in the city of Fresno. So again, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Please have a great evening.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
We're going to move now to our next presenter, Matthew Gilliam with Innovation or Innovative Transportations. So I don't know if you guys heard, this is a good time of year, the holiday season. It's the season of giving here. And I read a great story about Matthew's his program here in Fresno, and especially in the west side, in the rural part, getting people to where they need to go, their job, their shopping, school, so on and so forth. And it, after talking to Matthew, we have a very similar background where we went to school, moving away and coming back, and getting involved in this type of part of the community transportation, and especially about those who need it so much. So he has a great great program and great story to tell, and he'll be here to share. He's on right now. We'll get him to present his group or his organization there. And it's my hope that in this time of giving, that all of us will have take a moment and help Matthew with his organization. It is a nonprofit, so they need all the help that they can get in continuing something like this. So Matthew, you can say more about your organization than I can. Take it away. Thank you so much for sitting here, and sorry to keep you waiting, but the floor is yours now. Let's give Matthew the floor and let him share his PowerPoint if he does have one. I think he does, actually. So let me see. I don't know if Gavin's available to make him promoter, but
Any of you can share your screens, so yes.
Let me promote him to panel. I can promote him to panelist, right?
Oh, I thought you meant Matthew Woodward. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here listening to you in one ear, and I thought you meant our Matthew. It's like,
no,
show his screen. But yeah, if you want to do, is Matthew Gillian, you need to promote him and he can share his screen then.
Sure. Okay, so I'm promoting him to a panelist. I don't know where that leaves him. I think I did Nabil accidentally.
Hello,
Let me do
it
it.
looks like
Let me do it for you.
now.
Yeah, you did. You do it. Yeah. I think as I clicked, the names moved, and I think I got
I
Nabil.
accept this promotion.
Sorry, Nabil. But we'll get Matthew on right now. Matthew is now, I think, in. There he is. There he is. You're on, Matthew, and thank you. Sorry for the wait here, but we got you on.
No worries at all. There we go.
Perfect. Good to see you.
Good to see you all as well, and thanks for giving my lighting in here. Yes, I'm Matthew Gillian. Hello to a few of the folks that I do know on this committee here, and Chairman Arbayo, thank you for the invite. Again, Matthew Gillian, founding director of Inspiration Transportation, which is and Phil, no worries, people always get it confused. It took me a while to get to that name, but I liked the rhythm of it. And then once people have said it a couple times, they're like, okay, yeah, it's stuck now. So Inspiration Transportation, I founded the organization in 2017 with the goal of providing electric microtransit transportation services here in my hometown. And forgive me, let me get my PowerPoint up and get that going as well. To share my screen first, correct? Bear with me here. Alrighty, can everybody see that? Let me see the PowerPoint. Perfect, thank you there, Stephen. So founded in 2017 with the goal of providing electric microtransit transportation here in my hometown of Fresno. And our mission is to implement sustainable transportation services in underserved communities throughout the San Joaquin Valley. A little bit, as Phil was touching on there, I grew up here, went to New York, graduated from college in LA, moved to San Francisco and was there for about 4 or 5 years, around the time when Uber and Lyft launched out there. And just the wheels started turning in my mind of when I eventually moved back to Fresno, how I took all of these different things that I had seen in these areas and could create something. It started from just wanting to create a business that would help show my son how we could really affect our community. And then that turned into this nonprofit, just showing up at a lot of different meetings and learning about what the community was looking for through these different projects that were starting to present themselves in the city of Fresno. And obviously growing up here and living here, and probably most people on this committee know that we have an air quality problem. Our services are mainly to help fill transportation gaps in communities while also providing a clean, sustainable, and reliable solution. We've had the opportunity to partner and start our services with the Rural Transit Agency, and many of you who have either heard Moses Stites speak, know that, or just been involved in things that he's been involved in, know that he's been very passionate about progressing towards electrification of their services. So just showing up at a lot of different community meetings where he was there, I was able to capture his ear and let him know what we were trying to do and partner with them in utilizing some of their Measure C funds to put some electric vehicles to use. We started in a small community, West Park, which sits right about a mile outside of the city of Fresno lines. And then we expanded into a community in Biola and looked at how we were transporting folks out of those communities. A lot of times they're coming back into the city of Fresno for different services, mainly medical appointments, employment opportunities, and both of those communities are also food deserts, so a lot of grocery store trips. So while while we were able to start that with the Rural Transit Agency and in those areas, as we came back into the city of Fresno and began talking with more people, we started to see, obviously, with more population, there's lots of needs within the city of Fresno as well. We have been, again, talking and working towards trying to roll this plan out in the city of Fresno and finding communities that we could pinpoint and identify that had these lack of access to transportation, these barriers to transportation. We were able to work with FACTS in the city of Fresno on a clean mobility options voucher program where we did a needs assessment in a community called Three River RV Community, which sits right near McKinley and the 99 freeway. And we just, that's a whole other conversation that I can get into, but through working with the city of Fresno, identifying that community, we were able to pinpoint many different needs that we could work alongside the bus system that was already there and provide what's known as last mile services to grocery stores, medical appointments in that community. I've mentioned these many times now, but these were the types of trips that we started to focus on. A lot of times when we would talk about the micro transit service, people likened that to ride sharing or companies that they had heard of, like Ubers and Lyft, on-demand services. We started talking about this and working on this before the pandemic, but the pandemic highlighted just all of these needs and the barriers for many of these communities. And so during that time, we were able to focus in on food delivery and medical appointments. Because even though lots of things stopped at the beginning of the pandemic and during the pandemic, people still needed to check on their health and people still needed to get food. As well as other social services as well. So again, I'll give some highlights from these projects that we've been working on over the past little over a calendar year. But again, we started with the Rural Transit Agency and we launched our services October 5th of 2020. And between October 5th of 2020 and October 5th of 2021, basically utilizing 2 vehicles, we were able to provide 725 trips, most of those being residents out of the community of West Park and Biola. But then in August of this year, of 2021, we started providing some trips in the city of Fresno. Funny story about that, our services in the city of Fresno got launched a little bit prematurely. A news station picked up on a flyer that we had circulating through some organizations and created a news story out of that with not all of the details. And when that was on that news station, literally we started getting phone calls as the story was running. I would listen to the voicemails and I could hear the story in the background. And in 24 hours, we received 200 phone calls from people in the city of Fresno that needed to get to many different places. Some of them were outside of what we were trying to provide, not essential trips, but 200 phone calls in a 24-hour period. And we have now identified out of those many more than that phone calls, but we have a running list of about 175 people that are unfortunately outside of our zone that we're working in, but we're hoping that sometime soon, as we develop more partnerships and begin working deeper with the city, that we can start providing services for those folks as well. Another project that we were working on during the pandemic, we worked with UCSF in order to, for their mobile testing sites. It was a combination of working to get people to the mobile testing sites as well as handling flow through at those testing sites to get as many people through, tested, and whatnot as possible. And so again, that was about a 6-month time period, and I'd say that we saw about 5,000 people coming through just the mobile testing sites. And a lot of those sites were set up in Southwest Fresno. We were also lucky enough to, again, get a taste of delivering some meals for seniors. This was in the city of Kingsburg, but it gave us perspective on how we could partner with organizations and communities here in the city of Fresno as well, whether it's during a pandemic or moving out of that, where now specifically speaking about seniors, can see the convenience in having maybe just staple food products delivered to them on an ongoing basis. But that is something that we would also like to use our vehicles for. I mentioned the CMO voucher project, which again gave us insight into how to go into different communities and engage with the communities on an ongoing basis, as opposed to coming to communities and telling them, this is a service we provide and you guys need it. We want to start by going to the communities and really listening and understanding what the need is, so we can look how we can tweak and tailor our service so it specifically serves the needs of these communities. And these are some of the partners. There's many other partners we've worked with, but as I mentioned, FCRTA and specifically Moses Sites has been a big champion of what we've been doing. And through Measure C funds, they helped launch our services. Fresno Area Express they've been a wealth of insight into how to look at a lot of what Sophia and her team were presenting about vehicle miles traveled, mitigating that. All of those things will go into keeping this service or sustaining this service and expanding this service. And EOC, who has been the social service transit provider and agency, has been integral in allowing us to operate within what they already have going on and helping us expand as well. This is a video that I'll send to Chairman Arvayo there, and he can send it around to everybody, but I'll briefly just touch on Maria's story. She is, I call her my premier passenger. She started, October 7th, I think, was her first trip. And that's when she was going to that was the first day on her job. And before this service launched on October 5th, she was walking 15,000 steps to get to a bus stop, and then taking that bus an hour and 45 minutes to go across town to take care of somebody who was ailing. And she was that determined to do that. And when she told that story, it's just amazing to me what people are willing to will go through, because that's just their daily. And the other part of that story is that she began writing with us for so many months, and then her 17-year-old daughter, got a paid internship as a junior in high school across town in North Fresno at an optometry facility. So I was then taking the mother to her first job and the daughter to her first job, and they're riding together, and that is the beginning of a generational shift. Instead of this daughter growing up thinking, I'm not going to be able to get to these opportunities, now her mother has shown her that she can do that. And so I love telling that story. So again, the future is, again, ideally deeper partnerships with the city of Fresno. The phone calls, we have a running list of people that are saying that they want and need a service like this that can sit alongside public transportation and help bolster how people move around and access resources in the city of Fresno and around the county of Fresno. So there's a high demand. We've been proving this track record along with people who have been proving that the need is there for decades. We've got community support through some different organizations, and we're working with some school districts out there to try to work with their families as well. And as Chairman Arbayo mentioned, this is a program that we are looking to subsidize by grants and other foundational funds, because as I mentioned, I was in the Bay Area when Uber started. I was an Uber and Lyft driver for about 4.5 years. And Uber and Lyft here in the Central Valley, it's not the same as in the Bay Area and Los Angeles. The way that this area was developed, the sprawl out here, I always tell people, even if you can afford to take Uber and Lyft, it's not affordable. And so the folks that are traveling from the farthest ends of Fresno to get into the center of Fresno to work and get to grocery stores and whatnot, it's not always a viable solution for them. So I am doing my darndest to try and find all of the opportunities to keep this program subsidized, to keep the cost of it low for the people that really need to get to their medical checkups, to the grocery store, and to employment opportunities. And eventually, when we have more people traveling back to our community colleges, I want to look at transporting people to get to community college as well. So that in a nutshell is inspiration transportation. And I would love any questions that you have for me.
Again, thank you so much for sharing the story, the organization. I really appreciate it. And again, my biggest, ask from everybody, and the reason I wanted them on today is because organizations like this and what he's doing with Inspiration is, they need help when it comes to, keeping them afloat, getting their customers from point A to point B. So anything and everything that you guys can give this holiday season, it's a really good organization to support. So I encourage everyone to make that happen. He's got multiple avenues there to make that contribution, and we'll help you out as best as we can. I'm going to have looks like we have a few hands up, so we'll get you a couple questions and then we'll go from there. So Destiny, go ahead. You're first. I see you.
Just a quick question. Do you have Venmo? I saw you had Cash App, but I didn't see a Venmo on there.
So I don't have Venmo. I'm working on getting that set up, since Venmo and PayPal are all the same. So through my ActBlue link there, that's PayPal, but I'm working to try to pull it all together so I have one consolidated place. But I did drop that information there in the chat as well. Forgive the address, it got a little skewed there, but.
Thank you.
Yeah, everything is in the chat right now, so that's good, and I'm glad to see you on ActBlue. So that's wonderful. And then Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, hi Matthew, good to see you and get an update on your project. And they're obviously very inspiring. So I might have gotten lost. Are you expanding your services within the city of Fresno? Is this kind of like on the agenda, or? But and I think it certainly we should all donate. I already donated, I think.
You did. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's just like a fundraising appeal.
You did. Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. Yes, this is the beginning steps to expand. Again, like I said, it got prematurely announced as a partnership with the city of Fresno. What I would want to do within the city of Fresno is find the communities, right? Whether it's even as Sophia and them were mentioning, when you look at vehicle miles traveled, so find the communities where they're looking at implementing those sort of mitigating things, and then looking at how we can utilize microtransit alongside, again, public transit to help in those communities mitigate vehicle miles traveled, right? Sort of a broad, big dream that I would love to have is to be able to put multiple community access vehicles in these communities, right? So then you can shift the hopefully over time shift the mentality of car ownership. If families aren't trying to own and maintain as many cars and are looking at using cleaner transportation or public transportation or biking, then all of those things can, help mitigate vehicle miles traveled and GHG. So in an ideal world, while yes, I would love to be all across Fresno, we'll find those specific communities to start in Southwest Fresno, Southeast, wherever they may be, geofence some areas, and again, provide certain trips for those areas and watch and see how we are, then can take it to other communities. And then over time, I would love it to be kind of a selling point of Fresno. When you're living in Fresno, you're able to bike, use microtransit, use public transit, and get everywhere you need to be. And hopefully you don't have to own a car. Who knows?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Matthew. And it's a great story again. What else can we do besides obviously make our contributions? What else do you need from us to help you guys out?
Well, one thing actually would be tomorrow. I am presenting to the city council. A few of the council members already are aware of this project. So if I know that Matthew Woodard is on a lot of those calls. I mean, it helps to have people that are already championing like other transportation models and say, hey, we're hearing about these other things. If you think it's viable, right? If it speaks to you, I guess. But any time that all of those folks on the council can continue to hear about things from different angles, I think that's beneficial. So I will be speaking. I believe the time they gave me was 10:05 tomorrow. But you know how those go.
Yeah, they'll be like after lunch. So
Yeah.
anyway, good job, Matthew, and thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Have a good holiday season.
You all as well, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So that was a good note to finish our presentations on. That's great. So let's move over to our task force reports. I know we got a few of them, and well, you know, we spent a lot of time on the presentation, so let's make this happen. Let's get going. So we have our semi-annual report task force that we have to create right now. We have I think the old one is done according to my notes here. So we just need some people to be on that one. Again, if you haven't sat on it before and you haven't sat on a committee before, if you're new, this might be a good one to lend your hand in. It's pretty simple. Everything has pretty much been done as far as the template's concerned, I think. It's an update, and whether council wants to hear it from us personally, or they just accept the report. And that report will hopefully go out in April. I think that's what we're looking at on the timeline. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, but I think that's what it said in the notes or something like that. So who would like to be on that task force just to make sure we get it going and we get it to council in a decent time in the next 3 months or so? Not everybody raised their hand at once. Again, it's super simple because it's pretty much made itself. It's just filling in a certain few things for the updates because we do it every 6 months.
Phil, how many people do you need on that?
I think we need at least one board member or one committee member. So we just need one, and it takes two to be a committee. So I don't have any hands up as far as attendees. So
I'll take it on.
All right, Destiny, thank you so much. Who wants to help her in terms of just being able to like fill in the blanks there? Susan? Okay, thank you, Susan. Appreciate it. Susan's very well versed in the task force, so she'll be good. And I think actually also Jill is part of it because we usually put the staff member on it. So thank you very much. The budget task force, we haven't met, so I'm going to say like we don't have anything to make that happen. So semi-annual report, you guys will get the timeline ready and to get that report to council, hopefully April, I think. Again, I'll have to take a look at the minutes, but so we're not going to do that one. Semi-annual report is going to be Destiny and Jill and Susan. The charter task force, and now this is a big one. Laura has been working very hard on this one with some of the updates. I think this is our first draft, Laura. Is this correct? Is this the first
Well,
draft?
we are done with our draft, and if you don't mind, I will share my screen.
Sure.
I have a version here that tracks changes so that it's easier for everybody to follow.
Okay.
So in our discussions, we talked well, the draft includes renaming the committee. We feel like that it's not timely anymore to say bicycle and pedestrian, but that active transportation advisory committee would cover the current situation more and would be in line with how usually this issue is getting discussed. On the background, we changed the first and second paragraph around. We included that to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, that's one of the concerns. Then, of course, we replaced anything that is connected with bicycle and pedestrian with active transportation. Here we just included City of Fresno. Here again, the movement to active transportation, and then a little bit more clarification on some of the items that the active transportation or that the committee is looking at. We included a mission. The proposed mission is to make Fresno a more active transportation friendly city, short and sweet, and actually proposed by our chair, Phil Abello. Yeah, again, here on the objective, just exchanging of some of the wordings, and here in the second part, a little bit more clarification on what impacts bicycles and pedestrians. We adjusted it to the reality that mostly we meet 10 times a year. We are supposed to meet monthly, so we included to meet at least 10 times a year. And this document somehow wanted to be disconnected here. So my apologies for that. Again, changing to active transportation. Here we changed the review of the general plan to review of city plans, since this is a little bit more fitting. Yeah, there were a couple of things that we took out. I hope you all took the time to review the documents that are attached to the agenda and that are sent around before, so that you have a little bit more time to review this. We took some parts, we included another section, and we took some parts apart, and we included in there that the advisory committee shall be represented on every citizens advisory committee charged with updating the active transportation plan, since we all felt like this is a very crucial element for our work as BPAC or Active Transportation Committee to be included in this, and it was not included in the previous version. Again, here just a switch from talking about walking and biking to active modes of transportation. Here we included the Caltrans Class 4 facility to adjust again to the new circumstances. We felt here on 2B that it was too strong to say that the advisory committee shall identify all current road hazards, since this is certainly beyond the capabilities of any of us, but that we should notify staff of any current road hazards if we come across them. And we added parks in the lineup of areas that could be impeded by circulation impediments, in addition to airports, transit stations, etc. And here again, we changed inventory to review and comment on, since inventory would certainly be more within the scope of work of a consultant than a citizens advisory committee. Here, review road and construction projects. We deleted some of the details, and instead of reviewing, we included be informed of projects that fall within the city's jurisdictions relating to active transportation, and through that be afforded the opportunity to review the design of the projects. And here again, we just changed the wording a little bit from evaluating to making recommendations, since this was more fitting within the scope of work. And we wanted to make sure to stay within the reality of what this committee can do with unpaid committee members. And here again, project development and funding, we did not include participate in but shall be advised of participation opportunities in the review, prioritization, etc. Since we cannot really participate if we don't really know about it. Here we included on the enforcement side, in addition to bicyclists, pedestrian and drivers of vehicles, and within the cycling community, there is an effort to avoid the name accidents and talk about it as collisions. So we made that change, and on B, on the bicycle parking, we included capacity. In terms of educational efforts, the change that we included as number B here, that was in 6A. So we took apart 6A and created 6A and B. And then instead of saying that the committee will be planning and implementing bike to work day, etc., it says now or the suggestion is to say, to take a leadership role in encouraging bike to work day week in May. And then we included the pedestrian months in October of each year. On the advisory committee composition, we just added the description of how the voting members would be selected. And since there may be different districts, we deleted the number 9 to just make this document a little bit more flexible and just say that each council member shall appoint 1 committee member and the mayor shall appoint 2. We gave like a general overview of what kind of interests the members shall have, but deleted the more detailed description of what kind of company or organizations or representatives of interest they have to belong to. In terms of the composition, we changed it from saying that only the committee members must live in the county of Fresno, but only 2 can live outside the city of Fresno, to saying that the committee members must live within the city of Fresno. Oh, and I'm sorry, this one has to be deleted here as well. Or in a county island within the city of Fresno. Of course, anybody that's on the committee can be grandfathered in. Then we extended the list of the city departments that the city manager will designate staff from to work with the Active Transportation Committee. In addition to Public Works and Development, we included Parks and Recreation and the Transit departments. On the organizational side, we changed some of the wording again, nothing content-wise that got changed. It just says that we shall annually elect a chairperson and a vice chair and hold elections at the beginning of the year. Then we included in here one of the changes to have city staff provide secretarial support, to include taking minutes and maintaining records of the committee. And one of the reasoning is that the committee members that are charged with doing that cannot really participate in the committee. If you're taking notes, it's very difficult to be an active participant in a meeting. So we felt like that would improve the equity of all participants on the advisory committee.
That's a fair point. I'm live tweeting right now, and although I'm writing everything down I'm hearing, it's like going back and forth. It's kind of a pain. It's kind of a pain. Although this is kind of a public service and just kind of live tweeting it out there for people to see it.
Okay, yeah, it is difficult. Okay, good to hear. And then we changed again 11 from meeting 11 times a year to 10 times a year. And then we included a section that after 3 unexcused absences, members are deemed to be resigned and seats can be reappointed. And just to have some form of expectation of participation in this meeting. And then the replacement will fill out the remainder of the term and then may be reappointed to a full term. As last, we included that members serve at will, and the 3-year term of a new appointee starts at the date of City Council approval and ends at the 3rd anniversary of the date of the approval. I hope this helped to get a little bit better overview of what has been changed, and I'd be happy to have a discussion and answer to any questions.
Thank you, Laura. And I think this is a good, I think we're really close to, and I want to give the committee, like, a pat on the back for all the work. And it was, it was myself, it was Laura, it was Nick, it was Tony. I think it was all, if I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry.
And Susan.
And Susan, that's right. So it was difficult, but I think we're really close to voting on this. Maybe next meeting, if not, so people have some time to look at this. If there's, we could put it for a vote next meeting in January. And then if there still needs to be a few tweaks here and there, we can always table it and hopefully get it voted in February at the latest, right? I think that's what the timeline we're looking at, but I think we're really close, Laura, and thank you so much. And I think there's like maybe one or a few tweaks that personally I see, but we can talk about it later. Nothing huge, just a few different things. Anyone else have any questions on what the committee is doing or the task force is doing on that?
Real quick. Okay, once we vote on this, does it need to go before the city council or something?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Phil and Laura, I've got a quick question for you. I haven't read this edited version, but when Laura was going through it just now and scrolling, I noticed there were a couple of sections in there where the task force replaced language and made some of the tasks more passive than active, meaning it says the committee shall be made aware of and shall be informed of, instead of, I think the way it was written before, it kind of puts the onus on the BPAC, the BPAC committee members to seek out this information, and instead it's being edited to say that they should be informed of, but it doesn't say by who or whose responsibility that is. And I'm just wondering what the thought there is.
Yeah, I think it was really, I think we were going over it, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was really detailed in some things that we just don't do, and we don't have the capacity to do in terms of being involved seriously in certain things. So we try to make it more realistic in what we can do, or what the city, there was a lot of things about the city saying city must go to BPAC on this and that. I was like, they really don't need to. So why is that in there? And I think that's what it was, right, Laura? That we were just trying to make it more realistic.
Yeah, and also a little bit more accessible. When it talked about the plans, and we had Nick Palladino, Anthony Molina, Phil Ballo, so a lot of people that have been involved for a long time, and Susan, of course, and have seen how we work. And we, in a lot of cases, like city plans, they get presented to BPAC just before they go to city council. And that's great. But if we would have the opportunity to know about participation opportunities in the development of those plans, and BPAC members can actually be participating in this. So I think there has been the experience that that is not always so easy to know about. And so we felt like this, while it takes a little bit the onus away from us, actually expands the opportunity to be part of that discussion in an earlier stage. Does that make sense? And then on some of the comments, like inventory, or in form of all road hazards, we just felt like if you really look at what that means, this is really beyond the scope of work that somebody that is volunteering for the city can do. So we wanted to make sure, as Phil said, that it's like a realistic representation of what is possible.
Yeah, the BPAC as written right now is very active. Like, and I'm not saying that like we're not active. I'm just saying that like, our capacity as a board and volunteers, and we meet one time a month. It was asking to do a lot. And if somebody looked at it and they saw what it's like, well, we don't do half of that stuff. So it was like, why is it even in there? Like, it looks like we're failing as opposed to doing our job. And I didn't want that, at least. And I guess that was my reason, to try to scale back on some of those words. So there's not so much. And in there, it put a lot of onus on the city too. Like, BPAC has to be involved in this, and they have to do this, and it has to go through here. And it's like, well, we don't really, you guys don't do that anyway. So like, they come to us when, you guys have the information on the meetings and stuff like that, which I think a lot of us are good with. And a lot of us have open communication with you guys. But I think it was just asking a little more than we were probably all capable of. And at least that's what, that's what we were trying. I think that's what we're trying to do. So I don't know if that answered your question, Scott.
Yeah, it did. I know that there's been a lot of concern from BPAC members in the last couple of years about exactly what Laura said, not being informed of projects, plans, what have you, earlier and kind of last minute. And the way it's rewritten, I mean, it's fine as long as you understand it's not really making anybody accountable for that. When you say you shall be informed, but don't say by who and whose responsibility it is. I think that when Nick was on the board and active, he was like a bird dog going after, looking up public works. He had a really good idea, a firm understanding of what our capital projects were, 5-year, 10-year out even. I think that in the absence of that, if you don't have somebody on the board that is taking that kind of interest in seeking out that kind of information, and we've talked about this in the past, it's really hard for public works to provide that information without being asked. I mean, and not because we're hesitant to, it's just everybody's busy here. And
and
really
I think that's
to like, to spearhead that. And
and I think
just understand you're going to get what you ask for.
I think that's what the charter will do. It's just it recognizes everybody's busy and not everything can come through us. And yes, there's going to be those members that come in from time to time who want to go above and beyond what they can do, and that's fine. Like, we're not saying that's bad or anything like that. We're just trying to say, like, if you're on the committee, you're not failing, or the committee doesn't fail if everybody's not at that level, right? And the city, we don't want staff to feel like they're terrible for not coming to us beforehand. We understand everybody's busy. Plus, we're hoping at the same time that there's an active transportation position, right? That kind of is that liaison between the city and all that, right? And that'll take off a lot of the weight of what we've been asked to do in the past.
Yeah.
So,
But it's a great suggestion, Scott, to add something by whom to be informed, so that you also have a little bit more clarity on this. I think we thought about including the active transportation coordinator, but then we were like unsure if that person is always going to be there. And I mean, they're not there yet. So we felt like, putting it on somebody that's not there yet is also not really fair. I mean, I guess, since we're working mostly with public works, by public works staff, that could be included in there. And then it makes it more clear.
I don't know that you could write something in the charter, encumbering a city employee with.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
being
that's
that
also
person.
another comment.
I thought that you guys should identify a position within BPAC, one of your members, or it maybe every term it gets assigned to somebody to be that, that person, that NIP.
And look, and we can always add that in the charter later, right? I mean, we can. Yeah,
because
we
that's
can
just
always,
it. If we have the coordinator today, who are they going to contact?
sure.
I mean, I imagine they're not going to be reaching out to all of you. They're going to reach out to one or two of you on a regular basis and
Yeah,
disseminate information.
And we can add that in later once we get the ATP coordinator, and maybe we add that in like at some point, as of right now, it's always going to be the chair that Jill comes to, right? Jill's going to come to me, to Melanie when it comes to that. But if someone wants to, if we want to designate another seat in terms of whether it's a chair, vice chair, secretary, and whatever other position, we can always do that as well. We can rotate that around if we want to.
So maybe that should be articulated that Public Works will communicate with the chair on a regular basis.
Yeah, and we can do that. I mean, and we can look again. We're very close to this happening, and I think whether it's in the next meeting or the next meeting, we're very close to making this happen. So, Laura, maybe we do take some of those ideas to the next draft, quote unquote, and then we have more time to read it.
Overall, I do want to say I'm very impressed with the draft. I like probably 99.8%.
Yeah, I think it's very good. I think and Laura's done a great job in putting all this together, especially the noting the changes. So, but I think we're close, Laura.
Well, it is long for an overhaul, and I commend you all for your efforts on it.
Thank you. And Laura keeps us on track. So that's a good thing. So we're good here, and just a little. I think we're about another meeting or so away from making this happen. So we're super close. So yeah.
Matthew had a comment,
and everybody has a copy of both, so you can go. I don't know if Laura, do you want to send around this edited one?
I can send that around, but Matthew wanted to say something.
I just wanted to. I mean, you guys kind of answered it anyway. I mean, with Scott's suggestion about I don't know, just kind of designating people and stuff like that. Yeah, I definitely think that although, yeah, I mean, I don't have the time to be like fully participate, at the level that Nick Palladino probably would.
Sure.
But yeah, and many of us don't. But then again, that should not mean that we shouldn't try to have someone aspire to do that, or have someone, maybe the chairperson or someone else within BPAC aspire to do that, who does have the time. Or we should try to put it in there somehow that maybe the council members should try to get someone who's going to aspire to do that. But then again, now the council members aren't always engaged. And yeah, I think my rambling is going to take longer than we have in this meeting to but yeah, I'm definitely.
I understand. I think we all understand what you're trying to say for sure.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can talk about in another meeting, Laura, for sure.
Well, and we did not feel that these changes would preclude somebody, to reach high. We can. I think if you look through it, I sent this version around. It might make it a little bit clearer than just reading through the two different versions. but I think we try to make it create through this a little bit more transparent process, so that if you are not at the level of Nick Palladino and know the city so well, you can participate, because you get a little bit more support from the city to participate in some of those opportunities that they are. That was our intent in the change. And we talked about the ATP coordinator position and putting it in there, but we also felt like we don't want to have to change this document all the time, right? I mean, the last change was in 2004. Obviously, there was a big need to do it now, but ideally, this would not be a document that has to be changed every year, because something changes. So I think the flexibility of this is an important part as well. But I'd be happy if you have any specific suggestions where you feel like in the text we can specify that a little bit better. How people can go above and beyond. Please share, and we'll have the opportunity to.
She muted herself.
Oops. And we have the opportunity to change this draft before we put it to vote. I hope that's the only thing that was missing.
Good. Thank you, Laura. Really, really good. So we'll move on to, and again, I don't know if Laura wants to send around this, the edited one, so everybody can see it on paper, but I'm sure she can make that happen. The other, so
Please do.
we'll go to the next one. Matthew, do you have anything on Vision Zero?
Okay. Finals has actually been kind of hectic, so I am blanking out at the moment as far as other than next week we are planning on meeting on trying to set a date to meet with Viva Islas staff or her at one of those times. I have to apologize. I am not sure what the heck else I was going to say. This is actually really embarrassing.
Don't worry about it.
I can step in, Matthew, if you want.
Thank you, Destiny.
So we've been contacting various organizations and community groups to kind of wrangle everyone in to hear what work has already been done and try to see where we can start from there and kind of fill in the gaps. And so we're still in the process of setting up meetings with those community organizations. And I can tell you a few. There's Building Healthy Communities, Leadership Council and Accountability, Green Building Council with Laura. And Laura, I saw the email and I realized that we didn't get back to you on that date, so we'll have to set up another time. Also with VEVA, Valley Children's Hospital, and Community Medical. And those are just a few of the groups that we've been reaching out to. Did you want to add anything, Matthew?
Yeah, I'll say this. Been trying to reach out to my council member with regards to getting a the International Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims has passed, but for a bit it seemed like there was a time for us to try to get like a resolution on the council's agenda. I mean, because again, one part of Vision Zero, you acknowledge that a lot of people die every year, and it is terrible, and there needs to be a place for victims to go and collectively grieve. And we wanted to get at least a resolution, and I have not had any luck with my council member trying, because he committed to try to put together a resolution. He said it'd be easy, and a couple of council meetings have come and gone, and it has not been on the agenda, and we're having trouble getting updates from him. So that is disappointing, to say the least.
All right, anything else, you guys? Okay. PSA Task Force, Melanie's not here, but her only update was she had the only update that I had was regarding the PSAs. The Hawk one is finished. I believe we shared the final version, and they sent us the script for the scramble. So that's all I have from her, just FYI. The only thing I think that we need to put together now, and again, the semi-annual report is going to be pretty simple. But we're going to give out our awards in May. And I think putting together our task force now sets us up to have a good timeline by March March to have some finalists and have some applicants, because it'd be really nice to be able to open this up to the council members and the mayor's office to nominate their people for this award. I don't know if we want to get beyond ourselves and start going to the organizations around here, the community-based ones, but maybe we just start small in-house. So is anybody willing to want to start that right now? Obviously, I know it's the end of the year, but I think we need to start thinking about how to construct it, what's the criteria, all that stuff, so that we can send it to the council, they can send us their noms, we can review the noms and award a winner and do our winners in May. So anyone want to be a part of that one? Right now, or should we wait till January? Okay, I think we're going to table it for right now, I guess. I mean, look, I'll be on it. Honestly, I don't mind being on it, and I'm one board member, so that's fine. And whoever wants to join me, just let us know. That way we can start putting some stuff together on how this is gonna happen. And of course, anybody from the public as well.
I'll join you, Phil.
All right, Steve. Thank you so much. We'll get together, and we'll create the criteria and send it out. So appreciate it. The next thing that we have to go over is our offices. I believe the secretary is nominated and also elected, right, Susan? Is that correct? You're muted, but it's fine.
There you go. The last 6 years that I've been involved, that's how it's been.
Okay, so we're going to keep it like that, because I noticed in the new charter has nothing to do with the secretary, because obviously of all the attention you need to do it. So let's just keep it the way it is right now. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to open it up for nominations. We're not going to vote right now. We're going to do nominations. In January, we're going to do noms and voting. Okay. And then we'll go from there. So let's start out with chair. Who wants to nominate who? And just real briefly, Melanie said that whatever you guys want to nominate her for, she'll accept. So, but whoever gets nominated has to accept, obviously, and you can nominate yourself, of course. Any hands for chair?
I nominate Phil for chair.
I appreciate it, Stephen. I will accept. It's a good thing that we have one more meeting before the vote, though. So I will accept at this point. Yes, I will. Anyone else? Any other nominations for chair? Okay, so no more nominations.
I would mind nominating Laura for chair.
Laura, do you accept?
Well, I feel flattered, but I cannot do that starting next year.
Acknowledged. Okay.
Maybe another time, another year.
The one thing also that I want to go over, let's finish the nominations, but I want to go over terms because some of us are terming out. So if you're going to accept a nomination, make sure you're going to not only fulfill the rest of this term, but go back to the person nominate you and get another 3 years under your belt. So let's do vice chair. Who would like to nominate whom for vice chair?
I think Melanie's done a great job as vice chair.
Melanie? Anyone else? I don't know, besides Melanie, is anyone else not here? Just Lucio, right? That's it, okay. All right, so we're gonna close the nominations at this time for vice chair. Secretary.
If Susan is available, I think she's done a great job, and I would nominate her again.
I appreciate that, Laura, but my term does expire in August 2022. And I don't know if I will reapply at this time. But I would certainly accept it until August.
Is that possible?
It is possible. I mean, it's possible because she's still a board member. It's just up to her whether she decides at that time to continue. If not, we have a vacancy.
What about Matthew? He's typing all the time anyway.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I started doing this typing and live tweeting stuff like that, but honestly, at this point, I think I wouldn't mind preferring to like give this out to someone in the community member who's available to watch during the meetings and keep track of stuff, because I would rather have all my attention right here to be able to like watch stuff going on and to be able to comment fully on everything and not always like skip something because I happen to be thinking about what happened maybe a minute or two ago.
But I don't think that was, Stephen, was that an actual are you actually, is that a formal nomination of Matthew or no?
Yeah, I was.
Matthew, you're gonna accept or no?
I can't accept it, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so just to let you know whose term is, his terms are up. Lucio's up in June. Susan's up in August. Melanie is up in September, but according to her, I think she's gonna, obviously I think she's gonna continue. And that's it. So just, those are the three, just FYI. Of who's gonna be.
I know 4 of us are relatively new.
Yes, correct. And I just got renewed, so there's that. Okay, so at least at this point, and everybody has time to think about it between now and our next meeting before nominations again, and then we'll formally vote to fill those roles for another year. Okay. The annual awards, I kind of discussed them already in the task force that me and Stephen are going to do. The 2 awards in May during Bike Month. We'll present those, and we might even do that in person, depending on if. And I would say that like at a city council meeting, because like city council might want to get involved to present the plaque to the person that from their list that got that one. So just FYI on that one. I don't even know if we have Officer Belli still here. Do we? Before we finish that up. He is here. We'll let him go. We'll go ahead. Go ahead, Officer Belli. I know we've kept you long enough.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. I have the statistics. I'll try to get through this quick. I know the meeting went long. Since January 1 of 2021, we've had, going through November, we've had a total of 3,431 collisions. 196 of those were pedestrian involved and 78 bicyclists with 61 injuries. That same time period last year, 2020, we had 3,020 collisions with 164 of those being pedestrians and 67 bicyclists, 51 of those injuries. The fatal numbers year to date at this time, we have 19 pedestrian fatalities and 3 bicycle fatalities. Since the last meeting, we had a pedestrian involved fatal collision on November 11th, 2021 at about 5:43 a.m. on Herndon Avenue, west of Milburn. The pedestrian crossing the road outside of a marked crosswalk during darkness, wearing dark clothing, walked out in front of a vehicle westbound on Herndon Avenue that was in the number 1 lane. There's no lighting in this immediate area where this collision occurred, and both sides of Herndon Avenue have wrought iron fencing to prevent pedestrians from crossing, but the fencing where this pedestrian was crossing was altered where they could get through and cross at this location. Speed is not an issue during the investigation with the collision reconstruction unit detectives. At this time, they said there's no speed involved. regarding the vehicle, and it was determined that the driver had just made a turn onto Herndon Avenue from Milburn, approximately 600 feet east of the collision location. The driver was sober and voluntarily provided a blood test, and toxicology is pending on the deceased pedestrian. And that's it for now.
Okay, thank you,
Do you have any
Officer.
questions?
Any questions for Officer Belli on any of that stuff?
Officer
Matthew?
Belli, that's on Herndon just before it goes over the hump, right? Over the train.
Yes. Right by GB3. You know where GB3 is right there on Herndon and Milburn?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's right there.
Quick question. Where's last few meetings you typed up reports on this? Is there a reason why I'm not seeing a physical report?
Oh, I sent it to Jill. I think she's not in the meeting today, right? Is that what
She
happened?
was earlier, but I don't know. Yeah, I think we went back to the old agenda stuff. So like, nothing was on there, I don't believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
She did send me
thought-
She sent it to you,
and I
Scott?
sent it to her.
Yeah.
Okay. Scott can pass it around, I'm sure.
Okay. Good. I just wanted to have that because it's easier to like
I can
have.
send it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I can send it to you on email. That's no problem.
Okay.
Which is going to lead me up to the next thing too. I can no longer attend the meetings. I was advised by my supervisor. So with due to our staffing levels, and projects that we're having that are coming out, we're having different obligations and flexing of hours, and our schedules are getting changed constantly. So I was advised that I can't attend the meetings anymore. But of course, I'm willing to. You guys can contact me anytime and request whatever information you need. I can send in these reports if you'd like to continue. I can do that by email, but I won't be able to attend.
Understandable. No, and that's great. I think the report for now will probably do. We understand the the strain and the staffing there. Reports are, I think, good for everybody. And I'm sure, we all have your email, everybody on the board. So if there's any direct questions, I'm sure they can just reply back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to contact me by email. I'm always checking that.
Well, we're sorry to see you go, but thank you for everything for the last however many years you've been doing this. I can't remember, but and have a good holiday season. Stay safe out there.
All right. Thank you. Same to you, everyone.
Next up is our work plan, and Jill always adds it as an attachment. Oh, sorry, was someone else there? No. Oh, I think Officer Belli needs to exit or something, or put himself on mute. So the work plan, I'm not sure if there's anybody had any questions on it or wants any staff to come in next meeting to go over anything. But Scott, do you have anything on the work plan?
I don't have anything prepared. If anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to answer or respond later.
Okay, sounds good. Add PD shall provide an office. Oh, what was that? What was that, Steve? Was that not to us? You're muted. He's still muted. I don't know what's going on.
There.
There
you
you
hear
go.
me?
Yeah,
it went
yeah.
on mute. No, that it's just to hosted panelists. I'm just saying something we might think about. I don't know. We could add in the PD gives that report to us in that charter thing. I don't know, to make sure it doesn't go away completely.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Is that in that charter?
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
Is it? Maybe I missed it.
No, it's not. But I agree with you, Stephen, that this is a very big loss not to get updated on those numbers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he'll send a report, right? He won't be here specifically. Nobody will be here specifically, but yeah, I mean, we'll still get him. You know, and that was one of the things too, Laura, and going back to the charter, you added some departments, but we probably should put the PD in there as well. So just, yeah, just FYI. So nothing on the work plan. No one has any questions. Again, if you want to see anything more in detail, have any questions about the work plan or anything like that, send a formal request so that the staff will be here and prepared to go over that section at the next meeting. So, Stephen had a question.
Scott, have we gotten any funding source yet on the redo the ATP or not yet?
I don't believe so. I think we're still looking for grant funding on that.
Okay.
And
you would know more than me about it.
And then if there's no other questions or anything like that, we'll move to the ATP coordinator update. Scott, do you have anything on that? I think Jill said she was going to have something on that. Or?
I know we don't have any applicants still.
Just the one, right?
Position still advertised.
We just have.
Yeah, well, yeah, no new applicants.
Yeah. Okay. So other than that, just the one.
We have a number of positions available in public works, and they're not being responded to, generally speaking. So it's not that one position. I think we talked about that in the past. Yeah. A lack of desire. No workforce, nobody looking for work right now in this field.
I talked with my council member about that yesterday, and he was wondering, where did you advertise? Do you know where the position was advertised?
Would that be an HR thing?
It's not something we typically do. Other than putting out the market stuff on LinkedIn for positions on LinkedIn. I don't think
Scott, you sound like a robot. I don't know what's going on with it. It was very scary.
I don't know if this is any better. I was just going to say, I don't know if we have a formal program for advertising.
Hey, Scott, if you're attached to the city's network via VPN, Scott, disconnect from the VPN because they're doing some work at City Hall. So if you're using the city's VPN, you might be having connectivity issues. And your sound was really, really bad. You sound like a Xylon.
Yeah, and now he's frozen. No, he's not frozen.
Is it better?
Oh yeah, a lot better.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
You bet.
I was saying that I don't know that there's a budget for that or a process for that. I know we have done it in the past upon request, but I don't think this position or any of my positions for that matter are being advertised in magazines or publications.
I saw a bunch of city positions on Indeed, but I didn't see that position on Indeed.
after the last meeting, I managed to try to get posted for free on the APA Central California website and maybe a few others. Though there's a list of like a planner friend of mine, Casey Lauderdale with the city, gave me that I could probably try harder and look into getting those posted in other places for sure. But okay, so.
I posted some stuff at an active transportation quarter association and stuff in Rockies.
Well, thank you guys for all your help in trying to get the word out there for sure. Hopefully it comes in the next year. Hopefully it does. And then we had this Fresno COG Regional Transportation Safety Improvement Plan, public comment. What's that all about, Scott? Oh, okay. Okay.
That is definitely something that Jill's working on.
For sure. Maybe she'll send us around something. I know she had to leave, so maybe she'll send around something. Or if anybody's interested in more of that, you can always maybe we can ask her at the next meeting if you guys want to know anything more about that. So anything else? We moved the unscheduled communication up, so and that's pretty much it.
How about a motion to adjourn?
how about it? I don't know. You tell me. How about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Two
adjourn.
hands raised from attendees.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What's that?
There's two hands raised for public
Oh,
comment.
there are. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm only on the panelists and I always forget. Okay, let's go with Tony first, and then we'll go with Nabil.
Okay, yes, I can speak to the safety plan. I sit on that committee, and the Fresno COG has had a consultant do a regional safety plan update that they do every year. And there are two new things on that that would be perhaps of interest to BPAC is that they consultant developed a safety tool kit which you can put in different variables, locations, things like that, and gets ratings on different things. So it's available through the Fresno COG website. And the other thing that I thought may be of interest to BPAC is they are rolling out a safety education program countywide that I thought of that it might be something that they produce materials that are useful as part of the safety education program. So they're not quite ready to roll it out yet, but I'm sure Jill is on that committee too. So when they do bring that back to BPAC, that may be something that might be of interest to as far as safety education funding and that sort of thing. So.
Thank you, Tony. Let's go to any questions for Tony before he gets off. Nabil.
Thank you, Chairman Arbayo. I just wanted to get clarification because I have my hand raised since the ATP coordinator portion. No worries. So if I understand this correctly, aside from individual members reaching out to their network, there hasn't been any advertisement for the ATP coordinator position?
I don't know what the city's doing. I mean, other than posting it online. So, and then Steven said that it might have been in Indeed, right? I mean, maybe a while ago, but other than that, that's about it. And whatever the members are doing.
Okay, so it has. So is it possible for it to be advertised moving forward?
That's probably a city question or an HR question. I don't know how.
They probably have to ask HR.
Yeah, I'm assuming. You know, I don't know I don't know if it's each department has a budget for, positions that are open or if it's an HR city thing. So I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you. Last question. Was it ever advertised on BPAC social media?
I think we did when we first
several
when
times.
we first got it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And then was there ever a committee name change to Active Transportation Committee?
Not yet. No. We're that's something that's still being worked on.
Maybe next meeting.
Maybe the next meeting or the meeting after that. But again, it has to go to council.
Great. Thank you, Chairman.
Are there any other questions or comments before we take off? I don't see any other hands anywhere. Again, sounds like a plan. Okay, so who's going to make the motion to go home? Or
I'd like to make the motion.
Matthew.
Motion to adjourn so that I can finish a paper before it is due at midnight tonight.
All right, good luck. Procrastination.
Second, good luck.
It's mostly done, to be clear, but
All right, see you later, Matt. Or Matthew has the motion. Who wants to second it?
I second.
Laura's gonna second. I recognize Laura on that one. Who doesn't want to go? I don't think anybody does. Have a great night, everyone, and a good holiday season. We'll see everybody.